As critical mineral supply chains evolve, global manufacturers, from EV producers to energy storage leaders, are redefining sourcing expectations. Central Asia has the potential to step up as a trusted, investment-ready partner, but it must move beyond resource ownership to establish long-term stability and credibility in the market. This session will examine what buyers need, how the region can enhance project development and certification practices, and what strategic midstream adjustments are essential for market alignment. Experts will also explore emerging buyer-supplier models, long-term agreements, and the role of international partnerships in securing Central Asia's place in the clean energy transition. Join us as we discuss the future of resilient and sustainable metals in minerals value chains.
Good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's session. I'm very pleased to be here today to introduce 7 wonderful speakers who are going to talk through a range of subjects, starting off with looking at the global trends and then going through the roles of artificial intelligence, data, and then carrying on looking at responsible processes. So we have a wonderful set of speakers, okay, and I'm going to aim to have questions at the end if possible. So I'm looking forward to what we're going to talk about. So I'll start off with Ying Li, who is from the S&P Global Commodity Insights. She's a mine economics analyst who's going to talk about the global mining trends and emissions. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ying Li. Thanks for introducing me. I'm from Metals and Mining Research Team from S&P Global Commodity Insight. So there are 62 analysts in our team now to cover the metals and mining research. I hope today's presentation will bring you a new insight into the global and Central Asia's gold and copper insight. We will start the series focusing on the exploration study, development capex, lead time and production cost curve, and finally, I will look into the emission of gold and copper. So the first slide is about the global exploration budget from 1997 to 2024. From this chart, we can see that 2012 is the historical peak. From 2022, we have observed a rebound trend. Overall, the spending remained quite strong in the recent years, driven by the rising commodity price and the growing interest from the green energy metals. If we look at this budget breakdown by metals, it is clear that gold and copper are the primary target. Last year, gold price increased a lot, but the exploration budget fell by $400 million per year. On the other hand, copper saw its budget continue to rise, driven by the energy transition. And for lithium, driven by the demand for battery is growing even faster than copper. Let's focus on the Central Asia. The big 5 of Central Asia is mainly focused on gold, copper, and uranium. In 2024, as gold price rise, we saw a significant increase in exploration spending on gold as well. Although copper exploration has been declining over the past few years, it's rebounded from last year. The share of uranium has changed a little and has been growing steadily. We have heard that Kazakhstan has planned to build a nuclear power plant, so those high-quality resources will provide a solid foundation for any potential future development. Now we will briefly discuss the development capex and pipeline in Central Asia. As you can see on the left, copper reached a peak in 2019 at around $600 million. The most spend is from Kazakhstan. However, from 2020, the spending of copper mine has been declining. The remaining share of capital development is still expected to stick with gold in the near future. On the right chart, it is interesting to see that gold is also a helpful member for producing assets, with uranium mine in the second. 47% of producing mine in Central Asia are gold mines in 2024. Among the 179 gold projects, 73 are in the feasibility study stage, and 46 are in the production stage. Now let's move on to reserve and resources. Since 2019, gold reserves have been trading upward as the gold price has been strengthening, and investment in resource exploration has increased as well. However, we have observed that the gold production and the number of new mines each year has not increased significantly. Meanwhile, copper mine has also shown a downtrend in the discovery of new mines. Only 3 new copper mines came into production globally in 2024, less than 1/10 of the peak. We also noted that the new copper mine put into production in the past 3 years have been all larger mines. For example, Kiluvaco, commissioned in 2022, has a capacity over 300 kilotons per year. Kakula Kamoa copper mine has been expanding rapidly since it started operation in 2021, with annual copper production already exceeding 450 kilotons per year. In a study, we look at the lead time for developing mines from discovery to production, find that the average time is about 15.5 years. The majority of time taken is in exploration or resources development period. The average lead time of mine continued to rise, reaching 17.8 years from those that become operational between 2020 and 2024. This duration is nearly 3 times longer than 30 years ago. Extended period from exploration, permitting, and financing has significantly contributed to the longer lead time. The development cycle of nickel and copper mine is the longest, while gold is the shortest, but it will still take around 14 years. So if you start grassroots exploration now, it is likely that the mine won't be operational until 2040. Now let's talk about costs and emissions. The all-in sustaining cost of global primary gold mines has almost unchanged in 2024, as some high-cost operations in Australia, Canada, and the US had seaside. Looking at the cost breakdown between 2020 and 2024, labor increased by 20%, energy rose by 37%. The indicator suggests that every company needed to pay attention to the energy, since it had changed more, and it could be a key for the future cost management. In the right chart, we have listed the position of gold mine from the big 5 companies on the cost curve. Uzbekistan is the 7th largest gold mine producer in 2024, and its all-in sustaining costs are significantly better than other countries in Central Asia, especially the Moronto gold mine in Uzbekistan, with a low all-in sustaining cost, and are in a position with very competitive cost advantage. Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan are also in the lower half of the curve, which means they are cost competitive, with a relatively stable cost in 2025 and high prices. Gold producers are expected to see high margins in the next year. Speaking of copper AISC, in 2020, copper mines also enjoyed high margins from declining cost and high copper prices. In the left-hand chart, let's move on here. So in the left-hand chart, let's examine what drives the total cash cost down. On a global average, only royalties went up as copper prices rose by $9,000 per ton in 2024. That is an 8.8% increase year-over-year. Compared with 2023, the rest of components went down as supply chain disruption, geopolitical tensions, and a tight labor market. However, in Central Asia, except for TCRC and shipment decrease, all other costs increased, energy increase went up, due to high coal prices in 2024. Treatment and refining charges decreased because of overcapacity from smelter and refiners. The right chart shows the margin and the cost of copper mines in the past few years. It can be seen that there is a significant increase in both AISC and margins since 2021 and beyond. This was due to the commissioning of new mines such as Kamoa, Kilovaco, Timok, and expansions such as QB2 and Grasberg. The construction and expansion of those new mines could have a higher cost in the first few years, which led to the increase in all-in sustaining cost. However, the rise in copper price over the past 3 years have offset the high cost. Therefore, even though the costs are relatively high, the margins still have increased. With the rise in copper price, we expect that the copper mine will enjoy a high profit in the next coming years. So finally, let's talk about emissions. The left chart shows the Scope 1 and Scope 2 of the gold mine emissions by country level. In our data, the emission intensity ran from 20 kilometers to 23,000 kilometers of emissions per paid ounce of gold in 2024. South Africa gold mine somewhat squeezed the data here because of a high Scope 2. From a gold perspective, emissions from gold mine are continued to decline in 2025 by 5% from 2023. The decline is driven by decreasing Scope 2 emissions. Most of the gold mines in Central Asia are located in the second half on the emission curve, which are above average at 957 kilograms in 2024. Well, on the right chart, from a global perspective, there is a significant relationship between the gold grade and the emission intensity per ounce. A higher gold grade are associated with a lower Scope 1, but a higher Scope 2 emission. Since it's not easy to transition from a fossil fuel to renewable immediately, one way to decarbonize is simply by producing more ores simply by producing more materials by increasing recovery rate of all categories. For copper, Scope 1 and Scope 2 emission in 2024 is around 2.4 tons CO2 per tons of copper produced. The majority copper countries such as Peru, Chile, and the DRC enjoy the below average figure, as their mines are well integrated to the national grid with high renewable mix. The production scale is another reason for their low emissions. According to our data, those countries have a high usage of hydroelectricity sources, so it could help keep their coefficient of electricity emission low. So compare with underground mining, assets with using open pit as their primary mining method have seen a greater reduction in intensity. The decline is significantly driven by decreasing Scope 2 emissions. Underground mine are electricity intensity due to their ventilation and dewatering system. So any major improvement in their power source could substantially affect their emission intensities. So in contrast, open pit mine are most just a few intensity for haulage. Scope 1 emission associated with mobile equipment such as trucks has been much harder to abate, as the technology has not reached a point of commercial adoption and apparently prohibitive to smaller mines. So as such, we expect the Scope 1 emission to fluctuate in the medium term, especially for the open pit mine with heavy diesel usage and increasing all material movement. So all the information is available on the S&P CIQ platform, which is an integrated data center containing figures from over 98,000 mining companies. So if you are interested to learn more about the mining industry leading insights, please kindly to reach me or our commercial team. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. There's a lot of very interesting facts and information there, which I think will spur some of the discussions later. As a user of S&P's database, I strongly recommend it. So I'd like to now move on and invite the second speaker, Vladimir Norov, CEO and founder of the Silk Road Advisory, to talk about the role of artificial intelligence. Answer the questions.
Good afternoon, dear participants of the forum, dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to share the words of gratitude to the organizers of this event to be here on the station. We are going to talk about technology of AI, which will really can change the future of Central Asia, and about the challenges we face in the extraction and processing of rare earth elements. We live in an era when rare earth elements have become a strategic resource. These are 17 elements without which the modern world is unimaginable, from electric vehicles and wind turbines to smartphones, defense systems, and artificial intelligence itself. And in this race for the resources, Central Asia can become a really important player, and the countries of Central Asia like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, they possess significant reserves of reefs and rare metals. And together, the Central Asian region holds about 11% of the world's known and rare materials, rare metal deposits. But there are also serious challenges. The first problem, geological exploration. The difficulty of extracting reefs due to the dispersion and the presence of radioactive elements such as thorium and uranium requires complex enrichment technologies. Reef deposits are often located in remote, hard-to-reach areas with insufficient transport, energy, and water infrastructure. High capital costs for logistics, power supply, and construction of processing plants create additional technological and environmental barriers. There is insufficient competence in separating reefs by group light heavy, which makes it impossible to produce pure oxides or metals for high-tech industries. Environmental and political risks. Mining disrupts landscapes, causes erosion, repurification is toxic and pollutes water. Geopolitical risks increase due to reliance on a single supplier. In Central Asia, reserves exist, but most deposits are not explored according to international standards such as yours. In Central Asian countries, most reserves are assessed according to Soviet gold standards. Transitioning to international standards is a necessary step to legalize and monetize resources, increase attractiveness for Western investors, create a sustainable and professional mining sector, especially in the segment, rare earth elements. And we have already successful case examples, Central Asia Metal Kazakhstan, and also metals is a joint venture of Russia and Kazakhstan. And this is exactly where artificial intelligence steps in as a powerful tool that can help the region leap forward. Why is AI important for transforming the mining industry? The mining industry is at a turning point right now. On one hand, there is a growing demand for critical resources. On the other, the need for sustainable and efficient solutions. Traditional exploration and extraction methods are expensive, time-consuming, harmful to the environment, unable to meet modern challenges. One of the biggest barriers is the duration of the full cycle from exploration to production, today currently averaging 12.5 years. This increases investment risk and hampers technological advancement. At the same time, the traditional deposits are depleting. Many easily accessible deposits have already been discovered, especially those near the surface. According to McKinsey and Company, optimizing exploration processes with AI can reduce this timeline by 30%. What can AI do? process satellite and geophysical data, magnetometry, spectroscopy, radiometry, using machine learning algorithms, create 3D models of deposits with predictions of content and anomaly zones, predict economic feasibility of extraction even before drilling, using AI algorithms to identify the most probable drilling points, reducing exploration costs by up to 50%. Without reduced risks, faster time to market for projects. On average, only 1 in 1,000 explored projects becomes a mine worldwide. With AI, this ratio can be improved. Acceleration in orders of magnitude. The time from data collection to drilling decision drops uh, from years to months, weeks. Example, the US startup Cobalt Metals, backed by Gates and Bezos, is discovering nickel and cobalt deposits with AI in places geologists previously avoided. Second problem, processing. Central Asia practically does not process reese. There is insufficient development in refining and separation of light and heavy elements. Some ore is sent to China and other countries, resulting in a loss of added value. Processing requires hydrometallurgy, high chemical competence, and precise process control. How does artificial intelligence help in reprocessing? First of all, it's a real time management of flotation, leaching, and refining parameters based on sensor data. The second one, use of digital twins of beneficiation and hydrometallurgical plants, for stimulation and optimization before real-world implementation. This is already happening in mines in China, Australia, Canada, Chile, why not in Central Asia? Third problem, infrastructure. Many deposits are located in mountains without roads, water, or electricity. This increases capital costs. Solution: AI helps optimize logistics, create unmanned routes, manage supply chains, coordinate deliveries in difficult access conditions. Predictive analytics minimizes downtime. Even with infrastructure shortages, efficiency is achievable. Optimization of mining and enrichment using AI is first of all unmanned trucks, drilling rigs, loaders operate 24/7, improving safety and efficiency thanks to artificial intelligence. Sensor data predicts equipment breakdowns, crushers, mills, loaders before they occur. The result, reduced downtime, the and 50% reduction in repair costs. And the key breakthrough is automatic sorting of high ore in real time during extraction at the stage of extraction. Computer vision plus AI discard waste rock before grinding. Example, Chinese company Fanco, 105,000 tons in a year rejected or content increased from 3% to 12 to 14. Effect, metal recovery increased by up to 20%, 30% reduction in transport, energy costs, and water usage for waste rock processing. Fourth problem, workforce and science. AI frees people from routine, dangerous tasks. Human roles shift to strategy, oversight, ethical supervision, and managing complex AI systems. However, artificial intelligence adoption is not a panacea and requires overcoming barriers. Data quality and availability. Garbage in, garbage out. Depending on what kind of data we put as a input data in order to receive solution. Difficulty integrating all equipment. High initial investments, cost to AI platform, sensors, infrastructure. Cybersecurity, protection of critical data and systems also takes capital. And the most important, talent shortage. Acute lack of data science, AI specialists in the industry of geology exploration. Investment in education is essential. What is needed, and we need to have new human resources. The Kazakhstan University and Tashkent University of because we have lack of specialists. So we really have lack of specialists who understand the chemistry and AI. So what is needed? Creation of regional AI hubs at universities, joint master programs, startup accelerators in mining. Fifth problem, regulatory and investment barriers, lack of transparent standards, difficult to invest without clear environmental regulations. ESG investment mechanisms are just beginning to develop. AI can help model scenarios, how project economics change with green technologies, where demand is highest, how to respond to geopolitical constraints. Sixth problem, environment, environmental risk. Mining disrupts landscapes, causes erosion, repurification is toxic, and pollutes water. So overall, it's the dirty industry, and dirty industry, especially with acid use, coal burning, and tailing. AI can monitor emissions in real time, predict leaks, analyze video from sites for safety violations. In other words, artificial intelligence makes mining smarter and cleaner, and it can help become more transparent and sustainable. Seventh problem, geopolitics. It was already mentioned a few times. Central Asia lies between the interests of China, the European Union, the USA, and Russia. The region must avoid becoming a raw material colony. AI can help analyze global price trends, spot markets, read trade flows, identify most profitable markets based on concentrate quality and demand on specific elements, model geopolitical impacts on export scenarios. Now we can see what is happening in the Middle East, the conflict with Israel and Iran, and already we can see what risks in Central Asia we can have in the future. Central Asia can become an important alternative resource, but to do so, it needs unified standards between countries in the region, one joint sector development strategy, transparent regulatory environment for investors. What should be done? We don't just need change, we need a mindset shift from raw exports to high-tech, value-added production. Artificial intelligence is not a fashion, it is a necessity if we want to stay competitive, shorten the path from exploration to production, build a real re-industry in the region. Proposals. We need to develop national digital exploration and mapping programs. Uh, Compliance with international standards using artificial intelligence. And these programs must simulate investments, the technologies of AI for mining, to create a good regulatory framework and help education and others. Pilot smart mines in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, attract strategic investors in exploration, mining, and processing, implement PPP models to attract AI investments, establish regional AI hubs at universities with investors, partnership with Japan, EU, South Korea, alongside USA, China, and Russia, AI startup fund for the mining sector, and in general, in our Central Asia, particularly Uzbekistan, from the childhood, we hear that the mind is not in the age, but in your head. And with startup, we can see that these young guys who even doesn't have diploma or higher education, they didn't have this experience, but now they create startups and they find solutions for many tasks. And the RE sector also must be seriously taking into account these young guys and to accelerate the startups. Develop digital infrastructure from sensors to cloud platforms. Without data, AI cannot work. Digitize all deposits and mining complexes into a unified system, which a representative of Kazakhstan today already shared that they almost finished it. To develop and train specialists, AI geologists, AI engineers, AI metallurgists. Without AI, or without people, AI is just a tool. Strengthen legal and ESG frameworks. Develop corporate AI roadmaps. Invest in research and science, R&D, training, and partnership. Practically, McKinsey analysis, even in developed countries, many companies, they cannot have the profit from really integrating AI when the specialists are not ready for it, are not ready for this process. And the most important thing that every company must have officer on AI, the specialist of high level who can really track and monitor to integrate artificial intelligence in the places where the automatization is necessary, where the deep analysis is needed, and a fast solution must be taken. In conclusion, the Central Asian Association for AI, AACI, can be a reliable partner, and actually we are actively involved in this work. In conclusion, I would like to mark that Central Asia, especially Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, has significant potential, and developing this sector can drive economic growth and enhance the region's position in the global critical materials market. Uh, However, the realization of this potential, we must have strategic investments, technological partnerships, and infrastructure development. It is essential. AI can become a key to developing a competitive, sustainable, high-tech way, but we must think only 10 years ahead. AI is a catalyst. Thank you for your attention.
That was a wonderful journey through the opportunities of AI. I especially like the link in with the exploration aspects where there's potential to cut the exploration time down by 30%. So moving on, there's also some links in talking about making sure that we've got sustainable supply chains. So that brings us beautifully on to Sakina Mirza, who's President of Responsible Gold, to talk about future-proofing international gold supply chains. Mirza?
Well, good afternoon. Firstly, a huge thank you to both Uzbekistan and the organisers for inviting me today to present on gold. So a little bit about myself before I move on to gold supply chains and why this is an important topic. I am the president of Responsible Gold, which is a blockchain-based company focusing on technology solutions to help implement standards, but also to provide transparency and address some of the challenges we've heard Mr. Norov just present on earlier on. But before I joined Responsible Gold, I was the Deputy Chief Executive at the London Bullion Market Association, the LBMA. I will talk a little bit about the LBMA, but why that's relevant is I've worked on setting international standards for over 10 years. I know what it means, I know the challenges, I know it's not an easy task. And one thing that's been interesting to me all day today, and I've listened to all panels and presentations, is the number of times the word standard, regulation, sustainability, international frameworks, ESG has been repeated. It's definitely a hot topic, it's definitely an important topic, but it's really understanding, okay, so what do we mean by standards? What do we mean by international frameworks? And how do we make it efficient? Because ultimately, there's a business to run, but to ensure we are running that business responsibly to be part of international supply chains is the ultimate objective. So therefore, swiftly moving on. Next. There you go. So just a quick agenda, why gold, why it's important, a little bit about the challenges, then how to address those risks, and a quick overview of the technology and innovation that is available. And we've already heard a lot on the AI, so I will miss that part of it, but I'll just touch on a little bit on blockchain and tokenization. So why gold? I'm hoping this needs no introduction, no explanation. Everybody has some basic or expert understanding of why gold is important. Whether it's for economic reasons, it is gold has store value, it is a safe haven, it's a hedge against inflation. Whether it's from an investment impact, whether or not you believe gold is going to go high, whether it's a long-term investment, it helps with portfolio diversification. Then there's the technology aspect. Everybody who's got a smartphone, there's a little bit of gold in your smartphone, laptops, various technology solutions out there, medical applications, aerospace. So gold is important for not just economic and investment reasons, but also for various tools, electronics out there. And then there's the cultural impact. I've been visiting Tashkent. It is my first time in Uzbekistan. And I went to the bazaar here yesterday, and there's a whole section devoted to jewelry and gold. So gold, definitely an emotional asset class. It's valuable during times of, gifting, during times of celebration. So definitely one that has been around for hundreds and thousands of years. And then there's the geopolitical impact. Gold typically does well when there's a geopolitical crisis. So again, if that's your reason for investing in gold, there it is. I'm going to glance over this because fellow panelists already covered a lot in terms of stats and data. And in fact, my stats and data might be a little bit out of date or incorrect. So I would not rely on this. I will rely on my fellow panelists and data. But the real point to take is how important Central Asia is when it comes to the gold industry. Not just Central Asia regionally, but Central Asia in terms of the international supply chains. It plays a significant role. It really needs to be part of that global development and progress. And to do that, understanding how those international frameworks work is absolutely critical. Which then should, However, I've spoken about all the good stuff. Why gold is important, why it's important, but it does come with challenges. And these are actual headlines taken from newspapers over the years of where gold becomes problematic. This is when investors think twice. Do they want to have exposure to gold, given some of the media coverage you get with gold? This is where regulators, governments, NGOs, civil society, whoever, really, step away from wanting to be part of the gold industry. So this is what at least I have been focused on for the last over 10 years, on how do we address these risks? Gold, money laundering, human rights abuses and challenges when it comes to a lot of the high-risk mine sites, terrorist financing. I mean, look, this covers it. But it doesn't mean that we can't mitigate the risks. How do you mitigate those risks? It's all about standards, international frameworks, and regulation, words that we've heard all day, over and over again. It can't be left down to one individual, one part of the supply chain. There has to be a collaboration across the value chain, across the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Well, government, international associations, as I've already mentioned, civil society, but also the downstream demand. What we are seeing, or at least what I have been seeing over the last 10 years, that downstream demand more and more accountability up the value chain. They want to understand, where is the gold that they are buying coming from? Why should they be buying from you? How are they ensuring they're protecting their reputation by not buying the wrong gold? Gold is gold. I don't think anybody is disputing. But to put it overly simply, there is good gold and there is bad gold. And it's the good gold, the governance, the infrastructure on how do we ensure that we have responsible supply chains that is absolutely important to support the good gold. And then there's organizations, service providers, whether it's a technology service provider, whether it's auditors, that also support a lot of the claims, a lot of this transparency and the data that we need to build trust in responsible supply chains. So this is a very, very basic illustration of a supply chain. Again, I'm speaking to a room of experts, doesn't need much detail. There's the mining, that's the production side. The gold then has to be taken to a refiner. And in Uzbekistan, I do understand there are two internationally accredited refiners, both in terms of the Novoy Group and Al Malik Group. And they are also known as the LBMA Good Delivery List refiners. And that is extremely important if you want to be part of the international supply chain. And I'll explain why in a moment. And then there's the non-LBMA refiners. Then ultimately the gold needs to be stored somewhere, especially if you are focusing on the investment bars. So that's the large bars, the 12.5 kilo, the kilo bars, and various other investment forms that the gold comes in. And this gold is stored at commercial banks, central banks, and also private vaults as well. And then ultimately the end users, which I've discussed. So that's a really overly simplistic picture of a supply chain. So the international gold market. London is the largest financial market for gold. Why? There's a lot of investment gold bars that sit in London. It has a lot of legacy, it has trust. Bank of England has a lot of gold sitting in its vaults, but not just the central bank there, also the commercial banks. Roughly 905 billion worth of gold is sitting in London, or has been sitting in London, and that's as of May 2025. London also has the international standards, which de facto, whilst those standards were originally over 35 years ago developed for the specific London financial market, they actually have become the international standards. So the two LBMA refiners that I mentioned heavily rely on these standards. They have to get audited against these standards to ensure that they continue to be accredited by the London Bullion Market Association. And then there's the LBMA that holds the Good Delivery List. It's an important list of refiners, about 65 gold refineries, give or take, which account for roughly 85 to 90% of the world gold production. So it's a sizable number, and this is why all the gold mining, and all the responsible gold mining, I should say, goes through the LBMA accredited refiners. But of course, we understand that the mining part of it is just one part of the feedstock for refiners. Then there's the recycled gold part as well. Completely, it's a different topic, and it's a topic that I have actually spoken on for over an hour, so I won't go through today. But do catch me later if you want to understand some of the challenging risks with recycled gold. A little bit about responsible standards. So for those who are keen to learn a little bit more, I only have 15 minutes and I'm already a little bit over my time. This slide is mainly for your reference. So I know the slides are going to be shared. It gives you some high-level overview of the various standards that exist in different parts of the supply chain. The standards for mining, the standards for refining, and then the tools to help implement the standards. It's all well and good to have standards written on a piece of paper, but how do you actually meet them? That's very important, and enforcing those standards is perhaps even more important, otherwise what is the point? I am going to speed through. Finally, just a couple of slides on technology. Okay, well, thank you. Nice to have 5 more minutes then. So this is now focusing on my current role at Responsible Gold. So we at Responsible Gold offer a solution that provides for track and trace capabilities. This means that the gold taken from the mine site all the way down to the vault or the end user can be tracked and traced at each and every point. The data that comes with that gold is absolutely essential to help with trust. As I showed you that slide around some of the challenges and risks that sit with gold, well, how do you alleviate that? Well, you alleviate that, you mitigate those risks by creating trust. How do you create trust? Transparency. How do you get transparency? Good, reliable data. And this is where solutions like a blockchain solution helps with gathering that data. And as we heard earlier on from panelists, garbage in and garbage out. So you have to be very clear about the standards, the data, and then how that data is being verified at each point of that supply chain. So making sure that the data is protected, because of course, we've seen earlier on, data is sensitive. And proprietary data, especially where it's commercial, government-related, whatever your reasons are, it's highly, highly sensitive. So these solutions, technology solutions, provide for additional security to protect any issues with data breaches. The next slide will show you how the solution roughly works. Again, the same value chain or the same supply chain I showed earlier on. This shows what happens at each point of that value chain. The miner effectively registers the gold from the point of mining that doré. It gets picked up by a transportation company who verifies what they've picked up with check control, goes onto the refiner. That gold then gets commingled with other responsible gold, because the last thing any mining company wants is their gold being commingled with irresponsible gold, shall I say. So refiners have a huge obligation to ensure that every ounce of gold they take, they're doing responsibly. Moves through the value chain with records, verifications, all being trust-stamped. This is important for investors. This is important for governments. This is important, again, for creating that trust. Another use that the technology like blockchain has is supporting innovation like tokenization. Tokenization is, to put it extremely simply, a token that is backed by gold. So the gold is sitting in a vault. The technology allows to link the token to a responsible kilobar or whatever the denomination that you prefer to support the gold. We have a G-coin that supports this. It works in the system. And again, I can go into a lot more detail on this. But the last slide, I think, highlights why tokenization is helpful. It's another way of accessing accessing gold, getting that exposure to gold. It can be used as a payment tool, but far and beyond. A token helps with identity. It allows you to record your identity that is then allocated to a bar sitting in a vault on a trusted blockchain solution. So, innovation, AI, we've already heard about. Blockchain, we know there's many advantages, and especially around data and transparency. How do you then take standards and use the technology? It provides efficiencies. So you take the requirements of the standards, you use the database, the decentralized database, and you upload information in a secure and sensitive way so that it carries with the life of that gold that has been produced, so that you can trust it for as long as that gold bar is in existence, and you can comfortably, confidently invest in it, purchase it to be part of the supply chain. And I think, that is it. So I have a lot more to say on this topic, but there's my email address if anybody wants to reach out and learn a little bit more about the standards and the international frameworks. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very informative talk there. So moving on to Richard Spooner, who's going to give us a critique on the narrative of critical minerals. Richard is an advisory board member of the Caspian Policy.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to be here today. So we're talking a lot about critical minerals. Demand for what we call critical minerals began at the time of World War I to support the production of weapons. By the start of World War II, the market had skyrocketed, but America and Europe did not keep up with world production. They were importing these minerals from South America, Asia, Africa, Australia, and Canada. In 1950, the United States adopted the Defense Production Act, which gave presidential authority in times of emergency to prioritize and allocate resources for national defense, to expand industrial capacity where needed, and to exercise control over selected sectors of the civilian economy. Until January of this year, the provisions of the Defense Production Act had never been applied. For comparison, the USSR also imported critical minerals in the period before and following World War II, despite the priority it always placed on self-sufficiency. The Soviets had access to reserves of uranium, platinum, and rare earths, but their processing capacities lagged behind the needs of the state. Plus, the purity of the ores and concentrates from some external suppliers were better than what they were able to achieve at that time domestically. As a result, the Soviet Union imported critical minerals during the years in question from Africa, Cuba, Vietnam, as well as certain Eastern Bloc countries like Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Bulgaria. As regards China, rare earths were discovered in Chinese Inner Mongolia in 1927. In the 50s, China began production of rare earth concentrates. In the late 70s, under Deng Xiaoping, the government recognized their strategic importance for the future and created the Chinese Society of Rare Earths in 1980 and the China Rare Earth Information Center in 1985, showing their commitment to research this sector and develop it. And in 1990, despite the fact that their market reforms were in full swing, the government mandated that all projects to mine and process critical minerals receive approval from the State Commission for Development and Planning. This limited foreign companies to participating only through joint ventures with Chinese firms. Then the government introduced export rebates for its producers and production quotas to stimulate domestic production and impact international supply. Between 2000 and 2021, Chinese state-backed institutions invested nearly $57 billion in projects for rare earth, for critical minerals. And now China, of course, stands head and shoulders above the rest of the world. There we go. So today, critical minerals are on everybody's mind. They're essential not only for defense, as Minister Norov listed all the different things we all know that they're necessary for. And China, as we all see in the news, is exercising its significant leverage on global markets. China banned the export of gallium, germanium, and antimony to the US in December of 24. Following month, the US Department of Defense issued a statement saying that critical minerals are part of, quote, virtually every defense department system. And in April of 2025, the Trump administration used that 1950 Defense Production Act as the basis for an executive order to boost the development of critical minerals in the United States. Government agencies were authorized to fast-track applications, eliminate bottlenecks, prioritize the leasing of lands viable for critical minerals mining, and to issue loans for approved projects. The same month, April 2025, China placed 7 rare earth elements under export restrictions in response to US import tariffs, and the US initiated a formal investigation under the Defense Production Act. Market pressures, as we all observe, continue to grow. Just now in mid-June, US-China talks in London achieved something of a truce, with China agreeing to fast-track license for civilian use rare earth exports, but military-grade products remain restricted. A framework deal was reached to extend this truce. I think what we all need to accept is that this is not just a trade war. This is a strategic resource challenge, or a showdown, if you will. And China controls the critical levers. It will take a concerted effort just to make a dent in China's position. So the current narrative on critical minerals tends to focus on new mining opportunities in Central Asia and other parts of the world. This fails to take into account that China's dominant position in critical minerals is based not primarily on extracting them, although it has a strong position there. China has an almost global monopoly on the processing and refining of critical minerals, both in terms of capacities and technologies. So even if production were boosted in Central Asia or in other parts of the world, would have little impact on this challenge, this showdown that we're talking about, if those minerals are then processed and refined in China. Then Beijing would decide about exporting them or not exporting them to specific countries. For countries to reduce their dependence on China, new opportunities for mining critical minerals must be combined with new processing facilities outside of China, which brings us to Tashkent and the recently created national company Uzbekistan Technological Metals Complex, or TMK. This is an example of proactive decision-making by President Mirziyoyev, a company endowed by the government with significant critical mineral development projects. It also has access to capital. Its mandate is to identify partners capable of contributing their technology, know-how, ESG, to priority projects that address our challenge. TMK, as I said, has serious government support. It has highly competent advisors and management. This company is a vehicle for companies who are ready to commit to sustainable partnerships across the full value chain, upstream, midstream, downstream. The other major source of critical minerals in Central Asia, Kazakhstan, has taken a decentralized approach, supporting state-backed projects and targeted joint ventures, mostly, or most notably, I should say, the Akbulut rare earth elements subsidiary of national mining company Tauken Samrup. These efforts by Central Asia's two most economically developed neighbors mirror each other in terms of their goal, which is to increase critical minerals capacity, but they're being executed differently. As I said, it will be very difficult to mount a challenge to China. The Chinese have a large head start in critical minerals because of their foresight and because of their persistence over the last 4+ decades. It also works in their favor that priorities of the government become priorities of their largest companies, who aren't obliged to fixate on an exporter's bottom line. Those who are following the heightened attention that's being paid right now to critical minerals may think that there's a battle about to begin. You need to face the fact that that battle, in a sense, already ended. Now, only a sustained effort by the US, Europe, Gulf nations, and other countries will make it possible in time to challenge China's dominant position. Mr. Pini Althaus, chairman of Coke's Capital, recently visited Uzbekistan, twice, in fact, in the last few months. His opinion on these issues is widely respected. His company received the first licenses in Kazakhstan to develop critical minerals and rare earths. And at the recent Tashkent International Investment Forum, his company signed a memorandum of understanding with TMK. Althaus has stated, the time to act was years ago. The next best time to act is now. That's the truth of our situation. Thank you for your attention.
Very much, Richard. So next up, Hakan Arden, Project Director from DMT Consulting, talking about the anchoring of resilient metals and minerals value chains in Central Asia.
Thank you very much indeed. I just want to display a couple of slides of who we are and so on. Next. Oh, here it is. We've got an international company which is about 250 years old, one of the oldest consultancy and engineering companies around the world. So we provide a number of services to our clients, and apparently from all the way from exploration to mining to energy and projects, and including the engineering, processing engineering, and civil engineering infrastructure items. So we do have a number of projects dotted around the world at any time, and we've been to many countries so far. So these are just a sample of our clients around the world, and I want to move on to the project and how the projects are coming to life and turning into mines, and so this is a kind of summary, and our friend Ian has explained just about half an hour ago that the time to realize that the projects to a mining level, it takes about 11 years, if I'm not mistaken. So this is just an example, how the projects are realized from exploration stage all the way to resource estimation to scoping study, feasibility study, and then turning into mine construction. We also heard in the earlier sessions that the capital is a shy and extremely rare entity that everyone is after the capital. So the idea is to make sure that the timeline we have got here is to match the capital expectations. So in return, one of the most lengthiest period is the early stage part of the project development. So, and this is the answer that DMT has come up with, and using the artificial intelligence and the know-how and the engineering background that we have accumulated over the years, and then matching with the current industrial revolution that we are going through, that everyone is living with. And I'm sure all of you or some of you already experimented with ChatGPT, Gemini, all these deep search and so on. So what we have come up with is basically a kind of a logging and then measuring device, which kind of incorporates at the early stages to capture the chemical data, mineralogical data, and the geotechnical data in one go, so that the time to decide how we make those decisions about the exploration phase, about the next phase, and then so on. And then this is the clear way to answer some of the exploration stage activities. The idea is to provide something that has got high accuracy, and from big data to intelligent data. And then we know that data can be collected as long as you extract information from that part, and then also provide some kind of fast decision to come up with, and in a way that the core boxes can be analyzed whilst they are being extracted from the ground, and when the geologist just going through the cores and then making the individual logging exercise, but in the meantime the device is helping you to navigate through your activity on that basis. This is the mobile system, and it can be moved to any exploration site, and it's a resilient and very robust system. We also provided some artificial intelligence algorithms in the background, so the machine can learn from the activity itself. So the geologist trained the data, and then the machine learns, and then next time when it comes to the similar type of information or data, it just interprets that this is the stuff that you are trying to identify. And then this is a kind of device that the Central Asian countries can benefit, because we have heard a number of projects coming from the Soviet legacy early in the morning and then the earlier sessions. And then they all need to go through a kind of re-evaluation, and then this device can help the decision makers to identify which projects are worth chasing and so on. So in a way, it's a real-time in-field analysis supporting quick decision-making without waiting for laboratory results. What I mean with that, this is not bypassing the laboratory route at all, but it's just providing some kind of, a quick answer whilst you are on site. And then, which means that you can make a rapid decision about this number of samples you collected. You collect from the trays, and then the preparation time is reduced, and also the blank samples are not necessarily sent to the laboratory, which is going to decrease your cost, and then making some significant savings for the exploration aspects. And then if you are also running a model, geological model, that geological model constantly can be updated by the new data you generated on site, so that you can decide where the next boreholes will go, and then make the decision on that basis, so that the mineral domains, the mineralogical zones can be identified based on that one. We heard garbage in, garbage out, and that is exactly the same thing. But the beauty of this is that it's completely independent of operator. So the machines are doing the job for us, and then it has got a number of sensors built in the machine, so that the high time, high resolution data can be collected. So in a way, what we can do is to collect the geochemical composition data, textual analysis, and then it can also put into a context that it can be provided a level that you can easily decide what to do next. So as I mentioned, the machine has got a number of sensors built in, and then XRF sensors, DIB sensors, and RGB cameras, high resolution cameras, and high hyperspectral imaging camera, etc. All these are put into a kind of sensor fusion, so that the information can be quickly munched together, and then make a decision on the spot. So these are some of the hyperspectral imaging coming from the cores, and then when you process the data, you can start to see where your mineral composition is occurring and which location specifically. And then when you compare with the mineralogical data, quantitative mineralogical data, there is almost match between the laboratory data, which is obviously we competent persons prefer to use accredited laboratories to verify the numbers. But what this is doing exactly that it just gives us the early information in advance to make the decision. So if we just compare the laboratory results with the XRF device we built in, and there is almost identical fingerprints on the mineralized zones. So on that basis, if you look at the comparison, the correlation, and it's almost one-to-one match occurring. So in a way, with the high resolution images, you can also go into more details about the granulometric data to be collected, and then you can get the information from these aspects. And move on to mineral distributions. You can identify the mineralized zones in a more educated basis. And then combining the sensors gives you the holistic view of what you are collecting from your cores. The other thing is that you can also incorporate the geotechnical data into the core imaging, and then this will give you the interpretation of the data on the cores you are analyzing. As I mentioned, it has got a deep learning artificial intelligence in the background, so that the geologists are teaching the artificial intelligence logarithm, so that the logarithm learns from us, the geologists, and then make the life easier for us, again, the geologists. to make sure that we are not wasting our time spending our time on mineralized zones, but making sure that those interpretations are the ones that we are more interested. And then the obtained data is based on the data outcome on the basis of the sensors we built in. And then just to give you the brief sort of benefits, we can do about 150 meters to 200 meters a day sort of core analysis, completely the mineralogical analysis and the chemical analysis and geotechnical analysis, and also the logging aspects being completed. And the artificial intelligence is there for our assistant. And the data acquisition is the key element. We collect huge amount of data. And then the other beauty of it is that real-time data visualization about the data we collect. So in a way, the whole thing is kind of in a transparent manner. We also heard from the earlier speakers that the transparency is the key element, so that we've got another product which is called a 4-in-1 Sierra, which is kind of endorsed by the European Union, so that the certification process can go in hand with the data collection aspects. So that the idea is that to reduce the time component, and also the most important, the cost element from your exploration aspects. If you go back to the original slide that I just started, the idea is that if you are moving from this timeline, and then we heard that it's about 11 years, they're putting even the underground coal mines, or the underground mines, or open cast coal mines takes time. And then when you take all these things, you need to be very quick at the early stage as much as possible. Even if you decide, okay, I'm going to put a project into a live stage, then you got to be realistic. You're looking at timeline, which is about minimum of 5 to 10 years. So you got to really manage that timeline, whatever tool is available to you. So a couple of examples from Chile, and as you can see, there's a significant match. This is blind test, and the machine has been trialed in this specific project, and then the client has decided that it's worth spending money, and they purchased the device. And another project in Sweden. So it's almost identical matches where the mineralization occurs, and then the idea is to help the geologists to make the decision. So we are not really cutting the usual procedures, spending money on we are still spending money on the laboratory aspects, but this is one of those tools that earlier speakers mentioned about. Artificial intelligence is already with us, and then making life easier for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Hakan. Well, given the amount of money that is spent on exploration, I think getting more information and data from what you've collected is an excellent idea. So that was a very interesting talk there. Thank you. So moving on. So Abdulkakar, I'd like to invite you up to come and talk about what you're doing at Argamka in finding more rare and rare earth metals.
Dear colleagues, I will be trying to be very brief what we are doing in AGMK and in our project. Last year, Almalik Mining and Metallurgical Complex is a less mature organization. We celebrated the years. We have a big staff, and we have it was established in 1949. We have more than 35,000 employees. We have 3 open pit mines, and we also have 4 underground mines. And today we have one 148,000 coppers, around 20 tons on gold, and around 161 tons on silver. And due to calculating these resources, the AMC have very big plans, which will be realized in 2 stages. It's our key financial indicators, and it's actually share in the public budget is second biggest taxpayer, which is also giving current economic impact. And you can see our production, which is going to export our partners, which we export our production.
Since 2019, we reevaluated deposits at Yashlik mine, which allowed us to evaluate this field as the largest field with gold as number 1 and number 3, number 6 by amount of ore and amount of copper. And through gradual implementation of investment projects and launching the enrichment plant number 3 and number 4, we are planning to reach processing over 160 million tons per year, and we implement the project to expand the copper smelting plant, which would enable to bring up these resources into final products. Here we're showing the stages of implementing the project with deadline and stages and with capacity. At first stage, we want to enhance and increase copper production 2 times. Second phase, 500 tons per year of cathodic copper. And in terms of production of rare metals, yes, these are byproducts: selenium, tellurium, extracted from copper electrolytic slabs, also iridium, molybdenum. The technical team of our plant for the past 4 years made analysis of flow and reconfirmed the previous studies, which discovered that easily extractable rare metals as the additional source of raw materials could be considered as the sulfuric acid bypass product, byproducts. And the big amount of rare metals associated with pyrites is sent to tail deposits, and we have accumulated over 1 billion tons of tails. This could be an additional source of not just copper, silver, copper, and gold, but also rare metals. Similar flows were calculated along selenium, tellurium, molybdenum, and we also have reserves to increase the production of tellurium and others more than by 50%, and selenium as well. We looked at through our own forces and through help EPSA company from Finland. We set up the pilot unit, trying to use the waste acid storage tank and the sulfuric acid plant of a copper smelter. The average chemical composition of the waste acid was very good. We look that in order to develop an optimal economically visible method of the disposal of waste acid, the test was conducted by EPSA in Finland. Yes, as I mentioned before, semi-industrial tests were conducted on a mobile EPSA unit using the EPSA 1010 reagent. And we got some consultancy from American colleagues in terms of review search of new resources, rare metals, and following the order of our Ministry of Mining and Geology Ministry, using Institute of Mineral Resources, we have analyzed 40 items of technological materials with the purpose of search and compiling the flow balance on rare earth metals. And we have discovered that our resources, our ores, in terms of rare earth elements, vary from 60 to 80 grams per ton, not very hard big concentration, mainly light rare metals of cerium group, which enable us to define concentration in which product these metals are concentrated. At the current stage, technological center of our Almalik complex is searching for technologies of extracting these rare metals, and on the second phase, if we see this economically viable and profitable, we will see how to refine these metals to high purity metals. And for the partners, I would like to provide an offer, a proposal. Rare earth metals is the area with very little open information. Most of the producers don't want to reveal their secrets, and for us at the current stage, we very much need methodologies, and for analysis and standard samples, we addressed several famous labs to get these methods and samples, and we want that our central testing lab would get a good basis for analyzing these metals. Shortly, in terms of rare earth metals and what jobs we conduct, this work is continuing because through increase of capacity 2-3 times amount of rare earth metals accumulated in tails would also grow exponentially. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very interesting to hear about these additional metals that are available at Almalik. So, moving on to our final speaker. So, Iroda Urinova is going to be talking to us about the investment opportunities in mining in Uzbekistan. So, I think the previous speakers have all led up to this presentation.
Thank you very much. So, если позволите, я буду говорить на русском языке. Добрый вечер.
Thank you very much. If you allow me, I would speak in Russian. Good evening, dear colleagues, dear friends. Today I'm happy to be with you. My name is Iroda Urinova. I represent and I'm the advisor to develop international relations in a company called, investment company, which is called Way2. And today I present this company, one of the leading private companies in Uzbekistan, which is focused on supporting foreign investors and projects in different areas of economy, in particular in mining sector. Today, many people spoke about the potential of Uzbekistan, about the opportunities that Uzbekistan is a country with great opportunities for investors, especially at such strategic areas and sectors as mining, processing, refining of resources. And I'm going to tell you about what role here is played by Way2, who we are, and why it is reliable to deal with us. I'll try to be very short because I'm sure everybody's tired. So, as I said before, all the many speakers spoke a lot earlier about Uzbekistan being a country with open economy, sustainable development, and for the past 8 years in Uzbekistan there was a big transformation There were massive reforms, and the state was put into private sector, attracting foreign direct investments. And today, Uzbekistan is a young demography with rapid growing population, and the forecasted growth of GDP. And I would like to say that the main thing is not the figures, but the environment. Today, the country is creating the right, appropriate environment for investors and develops correct investment environment. The country, led by its president, makes everything possible to attract foreign investors that they would feel not just guests, but full partners. And this report on the systematic level is carried out. The work is done on many vectors. Uzbekistan adopted the key laws, creating opportunities to bring disputes to international arbitration, access to largest deposits through transparent tenders and auctions, licensing procedures are simplified, international standards are introduced, and it is very important and attractive for public companies and funds. Not to mention the mining industry. So, mining sector is one of the most perspective and capital intensive in Uzbekistan, and the country has leading positions in the world. Copper exports grew by 230% since 2017. Also, the country has 50 times growth of foreign investments in mining exploration for the past 6 years. And this is a signal that Uzbekistan is becoming one of the centers of attractiveness in Eurasia and Central Asia in general, in terms of way too. Company Way 2 was created to join ambitions of Uzbekistan and interests of international capital. We represent private sector, we represent business, and we understand the goals and expectations and risks of investors and partners. Today, in our portfolio, there are three key projects on mining and production. And my colleagues throughout this forum would be at our stand. We have a stand here. If somebody would have any questions about these projects or questions about getting information, we're always ready to help, ready to present all the information and details and share with you everything that we know. We are very flexible, we are engaged into the process, and we are inside this market, inside this ecosystem. And at the end, I would like to say that Uzbekistan today is a new institutional point at the international map. Strong government will, good resources, good legal basis, and high demand create unique investment environment. If you're looking for a country which holds such conditions, I congratulate you. You found it. If you're looking for a partner that you're willing to join your efforts to enter this market, I congratulate you, as Way2 will always help you with that. Thank you very much for your attention. Wish you successful forum and have a good evening, everybody. Thank you all.
David, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have time for questions, Arthur.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so do we have any questions from the audience? Come on. What am I bid? Question number one. Okay, well, I'll ask some questions then. So I think one of the key points that came out today was that it takes a very long time to go from exploration to production. We've talked about some technologies which are going to be able to accelerate that. Maybe I'd like to ask the technical experts here. So, Abdul Kakar, I mean, of the discussions that you heard today, which of them did you feel are going to help you help IBM Car be able to develop projects faster?
Attraction of experts who took part on the same projects in all over the world, who can decrease the times, and experts who have a big experience for exploring modern equipment. And, we understand that local specialists are not ready to work with the high digitalized equipment, and I think starting of our local guys and attraction of experts will increase the projects.
I attended recently a investment forum for Tajikistan, and they were emphasizing the investments they're making in artificial intelligence there. So, Mr. Narov, do you think that there's an opportunity within Central Asia to focus on applying artificial intelligence in this region and getting a leap ahead of other countries by sharing ideas?
Thank you very much for your question. And Central Asian countries now very young population here, more than 60% population it is young people. The last forum, and the investment forum in Tashkent, President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, especially emphasized that 1 million AI leaders will be trained in Uzbekistan next years, and in 2030 it is planned $5 billion export of IT services. So artificial intelligence became priority now by adopting last year in October special strategy and in using AI in all area. Today we're witnessing as a fintech in all our countries began develop. The financial sector began leader in using AI. But now we're talking today, it is very important how we can write in the productivity and in rare earth metals. That's why we are now cooperating with such Central Asia. ICT Week this year we will have in September, and we're planning to organize special forum, Central Asia AI Forum, where we will talk about everything, how we Central Asian countries can cooperate, and some of this example cooperation I told in the beginning of our first session. And there is Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan now is as a locomotive in this way, we can say, and they now working together for creating some common platform in this area. That's why the perspective is very high. Well, for example, in the Kazakhstan, they have first unicorn, Kaspi Geze, that is $70 billion in London Stock Exchange. And at the same time in Uzbekistan, marketplace Uzum, it is first Uzbek unicorn, and now predicted that in 2030, Central Asia will have 10 unicorns. It is because it establishes special favorable condition for developing AI, for developing startups, and promoting activity of young people.
This sounds like a fantastic combination of youth, opportunity, and giving them the freedom to be able to go forward. So that's going to be a wonderful thing. Richard, did you want to comment on this? Okay, so
we have a question from the floor.
Excellent. I knew we could get the questions going. So,
hello, my name is Asit from the World Bank. So, just a quick question to our panel, but probably more question to Mr. Spooner. So, you mentioned that China is dominating in all segments, like the upstream, downstream, midstream segments of critical resource minerals. And Central Asian countries being small economies with many missing elements, like you name it, skills, capital markets, infrastructure. So maybe I just wanted to hear your feedback, your views on maybe these countries should concentrate on developing backward linkages. So say innovative service companies, which are usually light asset companies. They do not require, heavy investment, capital investments. They are not capital intensive. And it seems to be a low-hanging fruit for these countries.
Microphone.
I think that that's a good idea. A good idea to look at that type of development of service companies. Of course, if we're talking specifically about critical minerals, we keep in mind the reserves that exist in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. It only makes sense that those two countries would seek to attract partners who could come and help them develop that, as long as it's understood that you need to do the full value chain going forward. You need to not only mine the minerals, but you need to process and refine them too, domestically. I would say that's the main thing.
Any further questions from the floor? Well, I'll carry on then. So, Yingli, you've looked at a lot of projects around the world. You've got a massive amount of data about projects, and you can see trends. Where do you think that the opportunities are for gold and copper companies are in the near future?
Okay, thanks. As I mentioned in my slide, from the lead time from discovery to exploration, it takes a long time. So currently, the price for gold and copper is increasing a lot. So, in my opinion, expansion is a better choice for currently, rather than construction for new mines. That is what for the other bigger mining company doing. And also, I mentioned in the slide, there's only a few new mines in the recent years. Yeah, this is all the other larger mining companies doing. And on the other hand, so for this decarbonization, to have a low emission is also a new opportunity for the mining company to lower their Scope 1 and Scope 2 data, to increase their recovery ratio, or to increase the ore grade, to have larger containing or larger share of their renewable resources rather than the fossil fuel, to have the lower emissions. Yeah. So the green energy is a very big choice, yeah, for mining companies. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Richard, I'd just like to go back to you. So we talked a bit about Tenko, talked a bit about Tarkin Samruk. We've talked a little bit about the opportunities that are available across the region. When we were talking about AI, you could hear that there's various developments that each country is looking at. What sort of cooperation do you think the region could do to be able to work more closely together, to be able to encourage development? So rather than each country going its own, whether there could be a cooperation, so you're best at this, we're best at that, and so on. What do you think on that? What are the potentials then?
I think that it's a very positive sign the way that the relationship between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan has developed over the last several years, and it makes that kind of thing possible. If you go back, say, 8 or 10 years ago, there was almost none of that happening. The relationship between the two countries is much better now, so I think it's possible for that kind of cooperation. Of course, I think all of the Central Asian countries are, in a way, if you will, jealous of their sovereignty and want to protect that, and haven't yet, for instance, created any Central Asian associations that really infringe in any way upon their right to make those sovereign decisions. So we'll have to see how that goes. I mentioned that, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan are trying to develop their critical minerals capacity in different ways. Kazakhstan in a more decentralized way, Uzbekistan by creating a very specialized company with direct government support. So we'll have to see. That's really up to them. I think, though, that signs are that Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan recognize that they can be stronger when they act together. I think that's a very good thing.
Okay. Any last questions from the floor? Because I'm getting thirsty and I believe it is time for the drinks. So, Arthur.
No, not yet. There's something actually which is not in your agenda. So first of all, thanks very much for moderating this session and keeping it on time and keeping us entertained, and we're still actually quite awake. So the